When interacting with a web page, you sometimes get these interaction delays where you click on something and then for quite a while nothing happens at all before the UI actually updates. These are called long rendering frames. Today we'll take a look at the Long Animation Frames API, which allows us to understand how our actual visitors are impacted by slow interactions and what we can do about it. So I've made a recording of this in Chrome DevTools already, and if we look at the frames section, we can see that there's at least two long animation frames where the browser isn't updating. And the reason for that is there's a bunch of stuff happening on the main thread. And if we have a DevTools recording, because we're testing on local, this is super helpful because we can see exactly what's happening. So for example, here we can see there is a Google Tag Manager or GTM.js handler that runs in response to the interaction. Then there's a big chunk of work being done by Chat.js, and we can actually jump to this and kind of see exactly what's happening. And then also we can see there's another task by Chat.js before finally there's some jQuery event handler that also runs for this interaction. So this is super helpful for debugging, but it's only available when testing locally. So that's kind of why the Long Animation Frames API was created. So if I look for long animation frames on this page now, I can just use performance.get entries by type. And I'm also doing some filtering just to make sure I'm finding the right one. And you can see we have this long animation frame that takes 770 milliseconds. This is probably not the entire interaction delay, but there's probably multiple animation frames here that can cause delays overall. If we expand this, we can see a few things. So first of all, there are three scripts that this long animation frame is attributed to. If I expand this again, we can see this one is Google Tag Manager code. This one is Chat.js, just like we saw before. And this one again is jQuery. So we can see how much each of these is contributing to the overall delay. And we can also see why this code is running. So in this case, it's just like that there is an event handler on this div. And in response to that, obviously all that chat widget processing is happening. But then if we look at some of the other scripts, we can see this one is body.onClick. So it's really just a generic analytics script that's running rather than something that's specifically related to the chat widget. And we can see that it's the same for Google Tag Manager as well. So this code, by looking at the invoker, we can see it's just a global handler on the document. So the Long Animation Frames API allows us to debug slow interaction in Xpaint and understand what's causing delays. And we can also look at that data in DebugBear real user monitoring. So I start by just with a general overview, but I want to optimize. So we have this optimize flow, just kind of takes you through it step by step. I pick a page that I want to optimize. I pick one interaction. So we've got 4 different ones here. And we can see this chat bubble is actually by far the slowest. So we're going to start taking a look at this one. And then, there's a bit of a breakdown. Some of it is just the background task, I think we saw as well. And some of it is actually processing the interaction. And then finally, we've got the presentation delay component. And if we take a close look at one of these interactions, this is what you can see. It actually shows the data that we get from the Long Animation Frames API. So it's always going to vary a bit because sometimes, in this case, there's a bunch of input delay because the set timeout call is in progress when this interaction is happening. But that really depends on what point in time the user is interacting with the page. But overall, we can kind of see all the different scripts that are contributing, how much they're contributing. We can see which part of the IMP score they're contributing to, input delay or processing time. And just overall kind of get an understanding of why this particular interaction is slow and why this user had a bad experience and what we can do about it. So that's how you can use the Long Animation Frames API to investigate poor interaction in Xpaint on your website. And you can either use it directly, you can use the webvitals.js library to kind of identify the long animation frames for the IMP interaction specifically, or you can use a commercial tool like DebugBear that's going to analyze the data for you and highlight where you have the biggest potential for optimization.